Wow. It's hard to believe, but it's the last session of the day. C'est vraiment difficile à croire, mais nous voici à la dernière séance de la journée. Over the past 2 days, we've heard from industry leaders, thinkers, and experts on a variety of topics and issues. We've looked at our present, and we've gazed into what the future may hold for the travel and tourism industry. In this final session, we'll be exploring how national action plans affect you in your respective province or territory, and how your region is working with TIAC to rebuild Canada's visitor economy. Lors de cette dernière séance, nous étudierons comment les plans d'action nationaux vous concernent dans votre province ou territoire respectif et comment votre région collabore avec l'AITC pour rebâtir l'économie touristique et l'industrie du voyage du Canada. We hope you enjoy these regional sessions.
Well, good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Mary Taylor-Ash, the CEO of Tourism Saskatchewan, and I want to thank TIAC, first of all, for organizing this Congress. One of the things is, an upside to this is that we actually have more people from our province participating in the Congress because it is virtual than if we were in Ottawa. I'm joined today by Jim Benz, and I'll introduce Jim a little bit more later, but we are one of the provinces, Saskatchewan, that we do not have, or have not had, a tourism industry association for a while. And so Tourism Saskatchewan has been we've been the organization at the table representing the province with the provincial territorial tourism associations. And Jonathan Potts, who's also monitoring the conversation today, our Executive Director of Marketing and Communication, has filled the role at that table in the absence of having an industry association. I'm extremely pleased, though, to tell you, and this is why Jim Benz is joining us today. He's the CEO of the Saskatchewan Hotel and Hospitality Association, and they are planning an expanded role to represent more of the tourism industry and the visitor economy in the days to come. And we're passing the baton from Tourism Saskatchewan to Jim and his group at the PTTIA table. So I just wanted to let everybody know that. I'm going to take a few minutes, and if you could move to the next slide, please. I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about the devastating impact that COVID-19 has had on the tourism industry in Saskatchewan. This is to the people who are participating on this session. We realize it's a devastating impact all over the world. And of course, we have not been immune from that. You can certainly see international travel was one of the first casualties of this virus. And we've seen huge decreases over 2019 in international air arrivals. Next slide, please. We have also seen, and again, no surprise to anybody, the number of American residents crossing the border from the US has dropped substantially because non-essential travel was all the travel for most of 2020. And in fact, if we exclude the first 3 months of 2020 prior to the border closing, automobile crossings into our province from the US have declined by a whopping 89%. And as many of you on this session know, this has had a devastating effect on our industry overall, but particularly on our outfitting sector. Next slide, please. Tourism employment has fell drastically in April with the introduction of the public health restrictions. Beginning in June, we were fortunate. We had some businesses reopen and workplaces reopen, but it never really rebounded. And even by August at the peak, we were 30% lower in employment than our 2019 levels. Particularly hard hit in our province, like others, was the performing arts and events sector and accommodation services sector. Also, as many of you know, youth employment is big in the accommodations and food services sector. And so that age group from 15 to 24 have been particularly hard hit. The next slide, please. So I know that all sounds very dismal. And I saw one of the presentations this morning that talked about the light at the end of the tunnel. And in fact, all of us who are in this industry tend to be very optimistic people. And that optimism has been, I guess, really taxed in 2020, but we are optimistic that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And we are also working very hard at recovery. And we can't do that without working in partnership. So I just want to take a few minutes, and I am watching my time very closely. I wanted to just take a few minutes to just talk about what we are doing in terms of some of the collaborations we have on for recovery. Destination Canada, as many of you know, are the lead marketer for Canada. And they have been incredible partners to us since the pandemic, certainly in the initial days in terms of research and offering research free of charge. So it's extremely important that we understand how people are reacting, how communities feel about welcoming people in their communities, how visitors feel about when they're going to be interested in traveling and what they're going to be interested in doing. So Destination Canada shared with all the provinces and territories research free of charge. And we have been using that data to be able to make our plans. Destination Canada also partnered with all of the provinces and territories in terms of making changes to their marketing strategy. Typically, Destination Canada would be very focused on the international marketplace, and instead we've had to pivot, and they've provided funding support to help us with that. Developing content and pivoting towards focusing very much on the local traveler. In addition to working with them, we are working with the Canadian Council of Tourism Ministers. And not everybody would really maybe know exactly what that is, but that is the mechanism where all of the tourism ministers across Canada and the federal tourism minister talk to each other. And we participate in meetings that happen every couple of weeks. During those meetings, we are able to provide feedback to the federal minister on the programs that are working and what is needed. And that has become a very good forum for us to share information across the country and also let the federal government know what the tourism industry needs. The Tourism Industry Association of Canada, TIAC, feeds into this organization as well. And we are working with TIAC on a number of fronts, and particularly on their destination development program. And we have workshops in Saskatchewan with that program. And finally, I wanted to mention before I turn it over to Jim that with Tourism Saskatchewan's work closely with our own provincial Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Trade and Export Development to develop a Saskatchewan tourism sector support program. That program distributed over $14 million in the last few months to tourism operators to help them in their response to COVID and recovery. And is also that program's also provided $5 million in support for marketing our sector. So those are just a few of the partnerships we're working on. If you want more information on any of those, please let us know and let Jonathan know through the chat. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jim, and he's going to talk about the impact of the pandemic on the accommodation hospitality sector. So thanks, Jim.
Oh, thanks, Mary. As always, a tough act to follow. Whether it's at a podium or here, very much appreciate your thoughts, and please bear with me. As Mary had mentioned, we're very excited to enter into a new role. Our organization has been around for 89 years, and as of January 1st next year, will be the new Tourism Industry Association for Saskatchewan, known as Hospitality Saskatchewan. So this is not unfamiliar territory for us, in that we have been in this role for a while. In that we do have many operators, not just hotels and restaurants, but event operators, tourism attractions, numerous folks in the visitor economy. So this is familiar ground for us, but it really represents a new era for us. And we'll talk a little bit more about the partnerships that we have and that we'll be engaging with further. So anyway, really excited about this new set of opportunities for us. It's been a culmination of a 3-year strategic plan for us, so we're really excited about this opportunity. As Mary had mentioned, the entire visitor economy of Saskatchewan has been really hard hit. When we go next slide, please. Next, there we go. For those that are in the accommodation industry, really no need to talk about this too much, in that we know that for us, fixed roof accommodation, the occupancies have really dropped through the floor. And when we look at this slide, I think one of the things that we need to be cognizant of is that in May, $2 billion was injected into the Saskatchewan economy for infrastructure spend. So the numbers that you see here are an aggregate of provincial numbers. And so in May and June, we saw occupancies go up in our rural and smaller markets and mid-scale markets, while our bigger full-service properties in our urban centers still were seeing record lows. And those occupancy numbers, June, July, August, September, oftentimes we're still in single digits or in between 10 and 15%. So really tough sledding for operators. And again, just bearing in mind when we see statistics, this is reflective of the entire province, small, medium, and mid-sized operators. Next slide, Grant, please. Now, when we look at hotel numbers, the really important number that we look at as operators, a little too far if we could back up one. When we talk about RevPAR, that stands for revenue per available room. Thank you. And again, when we look at those numbers, the fall, the precipitous fall that we saw in April and June was unbelievable and unmanageable. This is why I think many operators decided to temporarily close their doors. And even by September, going from 70% or $70 per room to 37 is just really, really hard to keep your nose above water. So anyway, that's about all I'd really like to talk about with respect to the hotel scene, because for those of us that are in it, it's been covered widely. There is light at the end of the tunnel. It's just a matter of how far that light is out, and us having enough liquidity, sustainability to get us there. Next slide, please. When we talk about our other membership group, we're really talking about the Restaurant Association. Hotels and restaurants make up part of our biggest part of our membership. And as the restaurants were ordered closed as part of an emergency order, there you can see where that dip happened in March. Many operators were able to pivot though to the takeout world, which really helped keep some revenues coming in through the front door. Now we have seen some return to business. We're very encouraged by that. As of yesterday, we do know that COVID numbers are starting to spike again across Canada, and Saskatchewan, unfortunately, has not been left out of that mix. COVID is fairly indiscriminate about those kinds of things. So, but we're working very closely with our provincial government. They've been very receptive, and communication pathways are extremely good. So we're very encouraged by the signaling that we're getting. And this will play an important part of our recovery. Next slide, please. One of the things that we understand from being an advocacy group for so many years is that we need to not only advocate hard on behalf of members for what are the issues that are impacting us today, but certainly it's our job to make sure that we keep an eye on the horizon line and identify any emerging issues that are coming on. I understand that my audio might not be very well. That's unfortunate. For us, emergency issues are the end of the deferrals that are coming, temporary layoff provision that's been enacted, but it certainly comes at a cost and insurance challenges. Next slide, please, Grant. Okay, maybe what I'll do is I'll disconnect my camera, and then we'll see if that helps with the audio. Nobody needs to see my head anyway. All right. Certainly within those categories, the end of the deferrals, we were helped out greatly by. Let me stop my camera. Hang on a second. When deferrals end, the deferrals really were an opportunity to kick the can down the road, which was difficult because we'll still have all of those deferrals that happen now. We'll be able to, we're going to be on the hook for them, including our fixed costs. The temporary layoff provision, this is another one in which larger employers are really going to have a tough time with, in that once they have to permanently lay off staff, these could be tremendous cost to operators when they have to pay out those severance packages, and not just tens of thousands of dollars, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then, of course, the emerging issue that is really on our radar is insurance challenges. And now this impacts all of tourism, not just hotels, is that reinsurability. Can you actually get insurance? And if you can, what will the premiums be? So this is a huge issue, and it's one that we're managing so far, and having great conversations with government as we go forward. Next slide, please. We're going to get through this because of the nature of our partnerships. Now, nationally, I'm just really excited about our relationship with TIAC. We'll continue to have a good relationship with the Hotels Association of Canada, HAC, as well as with the PTTIA, fantastic working group. Really excited about the caliber of talent that is in that group. Certainly provincially, Saskatchewan Business Council, which is all major industries are represented. We are one. Good relationship with a great relationship with the Saskatchewan Chamber, Tourism Education Council, SAS Polytechnique, and of course the Indigenous Tourism Corridor, which I'll talk a little bit about, which really represents a whole bunch of hopefulness for us. Next slide, please. And because we have such a great relationship with Tourism Saskatchewan, Mary and her crew, these really are, represent where our strengths and where the true opportunities lie. We've got a great media campaign happening right now around staycations. Indigenous tourism is really a unique opportunity for us, in which we're uniquely positioned in the world to give visitors an experience that they want, that they might not be able to get anywhere else on the planet. So we're really excited by that. Of course, this is, and as we've discovered, a huge opportunity for us to reinvent ourselves. This is going to ask these kinds of crises, ask us to put our best foot forward. We're a very nimble and creative group. I think the hospitality industry is known for that. We're extremely hardy, and we've been through tough times before. It's no different this time around. It's an opportunity to reinvent ourselves, talk about what the pipeline is for jobs and for our youth in our industry. 7 out of 10 kids get their very first job in our industry. 8 out of 10 First Nations persons. So these are incredible opportunities for us to move forward and to plan for the future. Fond of saying, we hope things will get better, but hope is not a plan. I can see Mary laughing. And it really is true. I don't know that I can ever sort of miss an opportunity to say that. But with great relationships with Tourism Saskatchewan and with our provincial government, we're now in great discussions about what that actually looks like. With the idea of the Indigenous tourism piece and the Indigenous tourism corridor, it represents an opportunity for us to package programs to sell to the world for multiple day or even weeks adventure tourism. This is really important for us. It puts us on the map, perhaps even globally. We're really anticipating some UNESCO heritage status for one of our attractions, Saskatchewan, which would be fantastic for us. And to finish off on what Mary had said, is that during these times of great challenge, sometimes we can get stuck in that, and that's all we think about. We very much have our eye on the future, where the opportunities rest. Maybe it's a glass half full attitude, but certainly that is really what Saskatchewan persons represent. So I am going to leave it there. Thank you very much for attending. I hope you're having a great Congress, everybody. You have all of our contact information. If there's any questions about what it is that we're doing as we go forward, please send us emails or reach out to us on our cell phone. So this would be a time for Jonathan. He's an absolute magician with regards to technology. If there's any questions that have come in, please let us know. We'd be more than happy to answer with a couple minutes that we have left. Jonathan, was there any questions?
None yet, at least none for the two of you. If there are any questions, anyone, please feel free to put them in the chat.
Yes, my favorite color is blue. Thank you. Great question. Okay, well, I guess if there's no other questions, it's a gift of 2 minutes. Thank you very much. And is there any parting words, Mary, that you would like to offer?
Yeah, it just thank you, Jim. We are very excited to have a tourism industry association again in our province, representing the needs of the industry and representing being able to advocate for some of those needs. We've always worked closely with Jim's association, so we're really excited about the expansion of that. And yeah, we look forward to continuing to work together. Today, we've merely given a little snippet of some of the work that we're doing, but I do encourage anybody who is on this session to reach out to either of our organizations to find out more about what we're doing. I had mentioned research, but research is one of the things that is very important in decision making. So, reach out to our organization, because we have somebody, we have our manager, Jeanette Lai, who's responsible for that and able to help with some of the information we have. I think Jonathan does have a question for you, Jim.
Great. I'll turn off my video again. The question was, how and when will you be communicating the new organization? We are finalizing our new strategic plan as we speak. There's going to be a complete rebranding of our organization, including a new website. And as of January 1st, it's public knowledge now, but in a much more formal and elaborate way, we'll be having a launch in the first 2 weeks of January to talk about what it is that we have been doing and where it is that we're going. So we are right now these are very busy times, and of course we're excited about this challenge. And you'll stay tuned because there's a lot more to come. And particularly from a strategic perspective, this really opens up a lot of pathways and doors, and particularly with government. It's so fortunate that now we have been particularly during COVID, at that table. We have government that we have, as I said, great communication pathways, as we should. Ours is the hardest hit industry that's been impacted by COVID. And again, the responsiveness and the support that the provincial government has given us, $35 million in the tourism support program, that's phenomenal. And it rivals anything else that's happened across Canada. So we're really proud of that. Jonathan, was there anything else that came along?
Just for me, Jim. So I just responded to a question from Cindy Willette from TNDMS Camp.
Okay. All right. Well, if there aren't any other questions, please, reach out to either of our organizations. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you to all our provincial and territorial partners. Merci à tous nos partenaires provinciaux et territoriaux. Voilà ce qui nous amène à conclure le congrès touristique de l'AITC. It has been a packed 2 days. Don't worry if you've missed any sessions, as recorded sessions will be available to members on the TIAC website. You'll be able to access recorded sessions beginning on November 23rd. Please join us at 2:30 p.m. Eastern for an industry social and celebration with Air Canada, Destination Toronto, and WestJet as we honor our Hall of Fame inductees, present our Lifetime Achievement Award, and put on a special salute to Canadian tourism. Joignez-vous à nous à 14h30 heure de l'Est pour une activité sociale et une cérémonie organisée par Air Canada, Destination Toronto et WestJet. Nous rendrons hommage aux personnes intronisées au Temple de la Renommée, remettrons notre prix d'excellence pour l'ensemble des réalisations et saluerons tout particulièrement le tourisme canadien. Merci encore d'avoir été les nôtres pour ce tout premier congrès touristique virtuel de l'AITC. Et n'oubliez pas le mot-clic, le tourisme compte. Thank you so much for joining us for this first ever virtual TIAC Tourism Congress. I'm Catherine Callery, and it's been my distinct pleasure and honor to be your MC on this very important Tourism Congress for 2020. It's been quite a year, but we're going to get through this together as an industry. This is a very resilient industry, and it shows the importance of all of us gathering here today and tuning in. We've had over 3,000 registrants tune in over the last 2 days. It just shows the importance of coming together. So keep at it. We're going to get through this. And remember, #tourism counts.